it's Tia Megan. It's time for Monday's story time. You chose The Relatives Came. And it was a story written by Cynthia Ryland, and the pictures are by a man named Stephen Gamble. All right, I'm going to read the words and then show you the pictures, okay? It was in the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple, enough to pick, but not quite. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches, and up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 in the morning, and it was still dark before the birds were even awake. They drove all day and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses and the different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. So they drank up their pop and they ate all their crackers, and they traveled up all those miles, and finally they pulled into our yard. Looks like they crashed into the yard, doesn't it? Then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Well, those relatives just passed us all around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. Look at all that hugging going on. I miss hugging. I'm glad that you're all home with your families getting lots of hugs, and I get a lot of hugs from my son too. Then it was into the house for so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get from the kitchen to the front room. Oh, those relatives. It looks like it's a full house. It reminds me of my childhood. I have 17 cousins. Woo! And finally, after a big supper and everybody eating 2 or 3 times around until we all got a turn at the table, there was quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s throughout the house. Oh, look at, they're all having such a good time together. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good, since there weren't any extra beds. So a few squeezed in with us, and the rest slept on the floor. Some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. Do you think some of them snore? The relatives stayed for weeks and weeks, and they helped us tend the garden, and they fixed anything broken that they found. Oh, I need relatives like that coming to my house. They ate all our strawberries and melons, then promised that we could eat all their grapes and peaches when we came to Virginia. Oh, looks like they're playing some music too. But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and breathing together. Oh, they're having a good time. Do you have a good time with your family? I do. Finally, after a very long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chest and they headed back to Virginia at 4 in the morning. We watched the relatives disappear down the road, and then we crawled back into our beds that felt too big and too quiet, and we fell asleep. There they go. The relatives are leaving, and everybody's saying goodbye under the light of the moon. And the relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled, they looked at the strange houses in the different mountains. And they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting at home in Virginia. But they thought about us too, missing them, and they were missing us. When they finally got home to Virginia, they crawled into their silent soft beds and dreamed about the visit next summer. And that is the end. There's a picture of the dark purple grapes. That's the end. I hoped you liked this book called The Relatives Came. Now that we're all done with reading this book, go to your template and pick one of the two that I have a picture for, and I'll read it next Monday. Bye.